So here's how you set up the sign-in community appliance. You go to get sign in and you go to sign in open source and you click the big free download button. This lands you on the SourceForge community site that we have. You should pick out the latest VMware appliance release and download the zip file. Yep, I have already saved it on my desktop. Let's open it up. And you should read the command, and the command says open the README. So that's what we'll do. Let's scroll down a bit. That's the copyright notice. We need to install VMware Server. This is the download URL. Copy and paste this into your browser, like so. And that's where you download VMware Server from. Now, I'm not going to show you this, and I'll continue using my current VMware workstation installation. You're supposed to download that, set that up, get it running. First, let's extract the sign-in server appliance onto your My Documents, My Virtual Machines folder. Let's open the VMX file. That's open. And start it up. Now, this is going to run a virtual machine powered by VMware Server. VMware Server uses full hardware virtualization, which means that there's a complete software virtual machine that's running inside of your computer. It receives its own IP address, its own ports, and it's completely independent from your machine. Now, what this means is that you have to set up some basic networking, and I'll show you how to do that shortly. Now, when you boot it up, you scroll up and you'll see this IP address. Let's go back to the README, and I've got this note here which mentions this IP address. Do not go to this 8003 port. Instead, you should just take down the IP address and go to the 8004 port. Now, while the 8003 port works, it pops up the standard self-signed certificate warning, which is you have to bypass that. Now, all you have to do is type in the IP address like so, and instead of 8003, you use 8004. And it's not HTTPS, basically. Let's take the admin and password as specified in the README and put it down here and hit login. And this is the Community Edition Appliance Administration interface. It's not the sign-in interface. This is what you use to administer your appliance. The first thing you should do is set your password, like we did just now. And now we're gonna set up the relay server. Pretty much the mail server is the only server side settings you have to do. Your mail server will always be localhost. You should put down your addresses here as I type them out and hit save. Yeah, now this screen is where you set up your networking. If you have a DHCP server, it will automatically fill in all these entries. If you don't, you have to set these up manually. So I leave that up to you for now and we hit save. If you changed anything, you're supposed to hit restart. We'll hit save now because we didn't change anything. This screen you can pretty much ignore. It's HTTP proxy settings if you have one. If you don't, just ignore it and hit save. Seeing the accessing the actual sign-in site. Like before, we've noted down the IP address. So all we have to do right now is just type out the IP address into your browser, use the site admin and secret password, and you should be able to access your sign-in site. Just like the appliance, we remove the 8004 port and all of the stuff behind it and hit enter. And yes, now this is gonna take some time. The first time the sign-in server starts up, it loads all required libraries, etc., and that takes some time to start up. Here's the login screen. So we type in the site admin username, like so. The password is secret. And you've just logged into your sign-in site on your sign-in appliance. Now, let's have a look at the user area. Pretty much the first thing that you should do is change the password. It's done like so. You're supposed to type in your old password and your safer new password. The old password is secret, of course. Now, let's go in and fill in our profiles a little bit instead of that default avatar. You should type in your full name, your email address. Now, this is the site administrator user. So if you're going to have a different user to manage your site, which is recommended, you should fill in their details. And whatever else you want to fill in here. The name and email is required. Everything else is optional, but we do recommend filling it up just the same. Here's how you set your avatar. I'm just gonna pick up, let's just pick this one up and hit save. And here it is. And my name also shows up here. Right, so moving on, let's set the mail settings. This is important because when you create new users, a mail is sent out to the email address of the user. And if you've set the host name of your appliance in that administration interface earlier, you should replace localhost with that. For now, we're just gonna say root at localhost because that is a user which is present. Otherwise, the mail will not go. So we've set that up. Now let's go ahead and create some users. That's it. Just these three fields are required. The idea is that when the user logs in, they fill in their profile as well. Now, if you open your mail, it'll have this link which will allow you to set your password, and you can start using your appliance just about now. That's it for this demo. Do enjoy using sign-in.